Today, we're going to do something a little different. Before we look back at 100 episodes of Pastors in Recovery, I want to give you a small taste of where the podcast may be going next. We're going to begin with a short drama. Then after that, I'll come back and tell you what these first 100 episodes have meant to me. Here we go.
Welcome to Pastors in Recovery, a podcast dedicated to ministry leaders and pastors navigating the challenges of their own hurts, hang-ups, and habits. Hosted by John Hammond, a grateful believer in Jesus Christ and a pastor on the road of recovery, this space is here to remind you that God's grace is bigger than any struggle. Each episode brings real stories of redemption, practical tools for healing, and encouragement rooted in Christ's promise of renewal. You don't have to walk this journey alone. Let's explore how God meets us in our brokenness and brings light to our darkest moments. Welcome to the conversation.
The pastor sat alone in his office long after everyone had gone home. The sermon was finished, the chairs were empty, the building was quiet, but his mind was not.
100 episodes. I thought I would feel different.
He looked at the microphone on his desk. For years, he had spoken into it about loneliness, failure, recovery, grace, and the hidden life of pastors. But tonight, he had no idea what to say.
Hello?
You sound tired.
I am tired.
Then tell the truth.
That is the problem. I have spent 100 episodes telling the truth. What else is there to say?
Maybe episode 100 is not about finding something new to say. Maybe it's about looking back and seeing what God has already done.
I thought the podcast would be different. I thought I would interview pastors every month. I thought more people would be willing to tell their stories.
But they were not.
Some were afraid. Some were not ready. Some had too much to lose. So I kept talking. Sometimes I wondered whether anybody was listening.
Were you listening?
What do you mean?
Were you listening to the things you were telling everyone else?
The pastor leaned back in his chair. The question landed harder than he expected.
You told pastors they were not alone. Did you believe you were not alone? You told them failure was not their identity. Did you believe that about yourself? You told them hiding keeps us sick. Were you still hiding?
Sometimes.
Good.
Good.
That means you still have something honest to say.
The pastor looked again at the microphone. This time, it did not look like a stage. It looked like a bridge.
I always thought I was building the bridge for everyone else.
Maybe God was using it to carry you too.
I have learned that pastors are lonely, that hiding keeps us sick, that the pastor and the person cannot be separated, that failure happened, but failure is not my identity, and that recovery is not a destination, it is a journey.
And are you still on that journey?
Yes.
Then say that.
The pastor placed his hands on the desk. He took a breath. Then he turned on the microphone.
This is episode 100. I do not have all the answers. I have not arrived. I am still learning how to tell the truth, still learning how to receive grace, still learning that I do not have to carry everyone. But I know this, you are not alone. Your failure is not your name. God is not finished with you, and there is still a bridge from where you are to where grace is leading you.
100 episodes, one pastor, one continuing journey. And Grace was still the hero.
Well, that was a little different. And honestly, that short drama represents something I've been thinking about for the future of this podcast. I still want to speak directly to pastors. I still want to tell the truth about recovery. I still want to talk about failure, shame, loneliness, calling, grace, and the complicated life of being both a pastor and a person. But I also want to explore new ways of telling those stories. Sometimes the truth reaches us through a teaching, and sometimes it reaches us through a testimony, and sometimes it reaches us through a story. That little drama was a taste of what may come next. But before we look forward, I want to look back. 100 episodes. This is hard for me to believe. When I began Pastors in Recovery, I had an idea of what I thought this podcast would become. I imagined that I would regularly interview pastors who were willing to tell their recovery stories. I thought there would be all kinds of people ready to sit down, open their lives, and talk honestly about what they had been through. But that did not happen as often as I expected. And looking back, I understand why. Pastors have a lot to lose. They may lose a position, they may lose a church, they may lose relationships, they may lose trust. Sometimes they fear losing everything they spent years building. So, many pastors remain silent. Some are not ready to tell their story. Some are still living in the middle of it. Some are afraid of what honesty may cost them. And eventually, I had to make a choice. I could stop because the podcast did not become what I originally imagined, or I could keep talking. So I kept talking. I told stories from my ministry. I talked about mistakes I made. I talked about failure. I talked about relapse. I talked about recovery. I talked about loneliness. I talked about hiding. I talked about the people God sent into my life. And I talked about purpose after ministry. I also talked about the difference between being a pastor and pretending that the pastor is somehow separate from the person. And through all of that, some themes kept returning. The first was this: pastors are lonely. That was the title and subject of episode 1. Pastors may be surrounded by people all week long. They may preach to hundreds. They may counsel families. They may lead teams. They may attend meetings. They may shake hands at the door and still be deeply lonely. Why? Because people surrounding by people is not the same thing as being known by people. A pastor may know everyone else's pain while no one knows his. A pastor may carry everyone else's secrets while being afraid to reveal his own. And that loneliness can become dangerous. Another truth kept emerging. Hiding keeps us sick. We often convince ourselves that hiding is protecting something. We tell ourselves we are protecting the ministry, protecting the church, protecting our family, protecting our reputation, maybe even protecting God. But hiding does not heal us. It isolates us. It gives shame a place to grow. Recovery began for me when I began willing to say, I need help. Those 3 words are not weakness. They are often the beginning of freedom. Before we continue, I just want to take a quick moment to thank you for listening and being a part of this community. If this podcast has encouraged you or reminded you that you're not alone, I'd love to invite you to subscribe and leave a comment. That really does help us to reach more pastors, ministry leaders, and hurting people who need encouragement. If you'd like to support Pastors in Recovery, there's a link in the podcast description. Even a couple dollars a month helps us continue creating these episodes and reaching pastors walking through the recovery and healing. You can also find the music from this podcast by searching for Crashing Lyrics on Spotify, Apple Music, and other streaming platforms. All right, let's jump back in today's conversation. The pastor and the person cannot be separated. For a long time, many of us learned to treat the pastor like a role we put on. We stepped into the pulpit and became a pastor. We entered the counseling room and became a pastor. We walked into the board meeting and became a pastor. But underneath that role was still a person with wounds, a person with fears, a person with needs, a person who got tired, a person who could become angry, a person who could be tempted, a person who could fail. And when we neglect the person in order to protect the pastor, eventually both begin to collapse. God did not call a role. He called a whole person. And he does not only care about what we produce for him, he cares about us. Another truth that became central to this podcast is failure happened, but failure is not identity. I have failed. That is true. There are things I wish I had done differently. There are decisions I regret. There are consequences that cannot simply be erased. Recovery does not require us to deny what happened. But grace refuses to let the worst thing we have done become our permanent name. I failed, but I am not a failure. I sinned, but I am not beyond grace. I fell, but God did not leave me on the ground. That does not excuse what happened. It does not remove responsibility. It does not mean there are no consequences. It means the story does not have to end there. There's another part of this journey that I have only recently begun to understand. My mind has always moved quickly. One thought connects to another, and then 5 more. I can begin talking about one subject and suddenly see 10 different paths it could take. For years, I thought that meant I simply lacked discipline. Then I began to understand ADHD. And suddenly, so much of my life made more sense. My mind was not empty. It was overflowing. The challenge was not always finding an idea. The challenge was building a road through all the ideas. And that is also where artificial intelligence began helping me with this podcast. I want to be completely honest about that. The stories are all mine. The experiences are mine. The convictions are mine. The beliefs are mine. And the voice is mine. But I can speak my thoughts out loud, follow the rabbit trails, tell the story the way it comes to me, and then use artificial intelligence to help organize those thoughts into something another person can follow. For me, that has not replaced creativity. It has helped creativity become usable. It has become another bridge, a bridge from imagination to creation. And I think that is part of what you heard in the drama at the beginning. A new way to tell the same truths. A new way to help another pastor feel seen. A new way to take what is in my mind and turn it into something real. So, what do you do with 100 episodes? What does it mean? They do not mean I have arrived. They do not mean I have figured everything out. They do not mean recovery is finished. They are 100 markers along a continuing journey. Some episodes came out of pain. Some came out of joy. Some came from old ministry stories. Some came from mistakes. Some came from what I was living through that very week. But together, they have carried a few truths I hope will remain at the center of this podcast. Pastors are lonely. Hiding keeps us sick. The pastor and the person cannot be separated. Failure happened, but failure is not identity. Recovery is not a destination. It is a journey. And grace has always been the hero. When I began this podcast, I may have thought I was building a bridge for someone else. But looking back, I can see that God was also using it to carry me. He used my wife. He used my sponsor. He used my friends. He used people who challenged me. He used people who stayed. He used listeners who kept returning. And he used the simple act of sitting down and telling the truth. So, to the pastor listening today who is tired, to the pastor who is hiding, to the pastor who believes failure has become his name, to the pastor who has spent years carrying everyone else, you are not alone. You do not have to keep hiding. Your failure is not your identity. God is not finished with you. Recovery is possible. There is still a bridge from where you are to where grace is leading you. Keep walking. Keep telling the truth. Keep receiving grace. And when you are able, turn around and help someone else cross. Thank you for listening, and thank you for walking with me. Thank you for being part of these first 100 episodes. The story is not over. And now here's the song created for episode 100.
I stood for years beneath the weight, holding everyone together. I preached of hope, I spoke of grace, while hiding from the weather. Surrounded, but still all alone, afraid of being known. Then mercy met me in the dark and led my heart back home. I thought that strength meant standing tall, but strength was finally letting go. These are the bridges that brought me here, from isolation into honesty, from hidden shame into recovery, from all the dreams inside of me into the life you're calling me to lead. Every broken road, every faithful friend, every time your grace said this is not the end. I thought I built the bridges through the years, but your grace was carrying me here. I wore the calling like a name and lost the man beneath it. Oh, I thought my failure spoke the truth until your mercy rewrote it. I failed, but failure is not me. I fell, but you still stayed. The worst thing I have ever done could never outrun grace. You never asked me to pretend. You only asked me to come home again. These are the bridges that brought me here, from isolation into honesty, from hidden shame into recovery, from all the dreams inside of me into the life you're calling me to lead. Every broken road, every faithful friend, every time your grace said this is not the end. I thought I built the bridges through the years, but your grace was carrying me here. I don't have to hide anymore. I don't have to carry this alone. The truth did not destroy me. The truth became the road that brought me home. I am more than what I've done. I am more than where I've been. Recovery is not the ending. It is learning how to walk with you again. You took the thoughts that filled my mind, every scattered hope and dream, and built a road through all the wonder, so what lived inside could finally be seen. 100 stories, one continuing road, one faithful Savior who never let me go. 100 markers, but I have not arrived. I'm still receiving mercy. I'm still coming back to love. These are the bridges that brought me here, from isolation into honesty, from hidden shame into recovery, from all the dreams inside of me into the life you're calling me to lead. Every broken road, every faithful friend, every time your grace said this is not the end. I thought I built the bridges through the years, but your grace was carrying me here. Grace has always been the hero. Grace has always brought me through. Grace has always been the bridge that carried me to you. Grace has always been the hero, and the story isn't through. The bridges that have brought me here are leading me with you. Keep walking, keep telling the truth, keep receiving grace. And when you're able, turn around and help somebody